I know what you're thinking. Is this just another video with the same 5 tips on how to improve your sleep? You already know that you need to go to bed earlier, you need to cut out alcohol, you need to stop drinking caffeine after 2 p.m., and you need to stop checking your notifications and stop looking at your screens at night. You know how important sleep is, but you're just finding it impossible to get into a really good, healthy sleep routine. But what if I told you that sleeping well consistently, even when you have a really busy schedule, is actually easier than you think? I get it. You have a really busy schedule. You're traveling a lot. You might be working late some evenings. You barely have time to get everything done in your day. And you also want to enjoy life, right? The last thing you want is to be forced into a really rigid routine that doesn't align with your lifestyle. So in this video, I'm going to break down how you can finally stop feeling so overwhelmed by the never-ending sleep rules and actually build a healthy, sustainable sleep routine that works even with the busiest schedule. So let's dive right in. Hi, I'm Anne, aka The Sleep Nerd, and I'm a sleep coach, and I can tell you that the biggest problem I see with my clients is that they desperately want to sleep well, but they can't seem to get into a good routine because their life gets in the way. So the first thing I want you to understand is that the secret to sleeping well is not about having a perfect routine every single day and sticking to it religiously, because that's completely unrealistic and will make you feel more frustrated, making it more difficult to sleep well in the first place. Instead, it's all about building a better relationship with your sleep, actually understand how sleep fundamentally works, and then implementing a few very simple habits that will support your body's natural rhythm. So what does that mean in practice? So number one, you can't force or control your sleep. Let's say you have an unusually early work meeting one day. You might try and go to bed early, right, to get more sleep, but that's likely not really going to work because you won't feel sleepy enough. We all had this problem, and because you're now worried about the meeting, freaking out about not getting enough sleep, you're actually making it worse and your sleep will be worse. And that's because sleep happens naturally when 3 things are aligned: your sleep drive or sleep pressure, your circadian rhythm, this is your internal body clock, and what state your nervous system is in when you go to bed. So do you actually feel relaxed or do you feel stressed out? But to keep it short, sleep pressure is a chemical in your brain that builds up in your body whilst you're awake, and it depletes when you sleep. So it basically makes you feel sleepy. The longer you are awake, the sleepier you feel. And that's why the typical sleep advice includes cutting out caffeine, because it blocks this chemical and makes you less sleepy, and therefore it's more difficult to sleep at night. But even if your sleep pressure is high enough, there is still another mechanism in your body regulating your sleep that we need to take into account, and that is your circadian rhythm. It's essentially your internal body clock that runs on a 24-hour cycle, and it regulates most of your bodily functions, including the release of melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you sleep. So if you're going to bed earlier than your body expects, then melatonin production hasn't really started yet or isn't high enough, and your body is simply not ready to get you to sleep. Because of all of this, you're now starting to worry, getting anxious about this really important meeting and how tired you're going to be the next day, which is then putting your nervous system into a state of hyperarousal, meaning that your body will not let you sleep because it thinks there is some kind of threat that it needs to fight off. So now these 3 mechanisms are essentially out of sync, and that's why you can't sleep. That's why you can't force yourself to go to bed early when that is not the usual time that you would go to sleep. So you might say, okay, but what do I do instead? Because I don't have a regular schedule. I might have an early meeting one day, a late meeting another day, and I can't go to bed early, but if I go to bed later, I won't get enough sleep. And that's exactly where the problem lies. You think currently that you need to get a certain number of hours of sleep every single night, or you won't be able to function. And this is what we call a dysfunctional sleep belief, because you believe that not getting enough sleep leads to a negative outcome, you will try everything to avoid that. And those behaviors that you're showing often lead to worse sleep. And this is just one of many examples. But if you want to assess your own sleep beliefs and get to the root cause of your sleep problems, I do have a free sleep assessment tool linked in the description below to get you started. But let's move on to my second tip, which is consistency over perfection and accepting that sleep adjusts over time. You need to understand that sleep varies night by night, and it's not always the same. Your body is actually extremely well designed to cope with this type of temporary stress, and it can recover quickly if you don't interfere with the natural process and the natural rhythm. So if we go back to this previous example of going to bed early because you have an early meeting, instead of forcing yourself to go to bed early, just go to bed around the same time that you would normally go to bed. Don't worry about the lack of sleep the next day. Just trust your body to do its job. It's going to sound weird, but you will feel a bit tired, of course, when you get up, because your body is not expecting you to get up this early. You will feel a bit groggy, but we all know that when something important is coming up, like an important presentation, or we're traveling and we have to get up early, our body will give us the rush of adrenaline to deal with that situation. And we somehow still deliver a really good presentation, right? Because it's our body's stress response, and it will put us into the right state of mind and in giving us the physical capabilities to deal with the situation. So once that meeting is over, your body will go back into normal mode, and you will likely feel a bit drained as the recovery process is taking place. But at this point, don't be tempted to take a nap or go to sleep super early, because consistency is really key when it comes to sleep. So try and stick to your usual bedtime. And because you got up earlier that day, now your sleep pressure is actually a lot higher as you're getting to the evening, and you will likely find it easier to fall asleep. Your sleep will also be deeper as your body is recovering from that previous night. So the lesson here is consistency is everything, and not worrying about individual nights. So let's get to tip number 3, which is using daylight exposure as a kind of reset button for your body. So remember how I said that you need to align to your natural body rhythm instead of trying to force yourself to sleep. Now, having a consistent schedule is important, but more important than that actually is getting natural daylight exposure. For me, this is really the key to great sleep, and also a great tool that you can use anytime when you're traveling, when you're switching time zones, or when you just feel like your current schedule is just all over the place and you can't seem to get back on track. Because your circadian rhythm, aka your internal body clock, is heavily influenced by daylight. In order for your brain to tell the rest of your body what time of the day it actually is, it needs some kind of input from the outside, which is through your eyes. So one simple thing that you can do is getting at least 15 minutes of daylight exposure every morning as you're waking up. It doesn't need to be complicated. If you work from home, walk around the block, stand in your garden, stand on your balcony. If you commute, you could get off a stop earlier and walk to the office, maybe grab a coffee on the way. You can just incorporate this into your current routine somehow, and just getting outside for at least 15 minutes. If you can do more, great. But this really should be a priority over everything else that you're doing. And I can tell you from my own experience that neglecting this simple habit really messes up my sleep more than anything else. And it's the same for my clients as well. So I walk my dog every single day for about 30 minutes or so. But when I travel, this routine goes out the window completely. So I went to the US last year, for example, in February, in winter, not much sunlight out there anyway. And I made the biggest mistake by just getting up, going downstairs to get breakfast, and then going straight into a meeting room for the rest of the day with just artificial light, essentially. Not only was I jet lagged already due to the time difference, but I also didn't give my body any signals as to what time it's actually supposed to be, apart from getting up in the morning, which of course is helpful. My sleep was wrecked for the entire week, and I really struggled to adjust more than usual. Whereas the opposite happened when I traveled again a few months later. The weather was, of course, a bit more sunny, and that helped, but I also made the effort of actually going outside, and I was able to adjust to the jet lag much more quickly, and I felt much better. So make sure that your number one priority is getting up around the same time every single day and getting natural daylight exposure as soon as you get up. Even if everything else in your routine falls apart, I promise you that this will help you get back on track. So these are the essential strategies that help you sleep well consistently. Let's summarize them again. So you need to understand the basic mechanisms of sleep, which is your sleep pressure, circadian rhythm, and nervous system regulation. And you need to assess how your current behaviors might be working against those three mechanisms. You need to know that sleep cannot be forced or controlled in some way, but that you can support your natural body rhythm by keeping those mechanisms aligned. Consistency over perfection. So don't try to get the perfect sleep score every single night. Accept that your sleep will be different from night to night, and just trust your body to do its job. And lastly, prioritize natural daylight exposure every single day, and especially if you're traveling a lot. Now, of course, there are many other things that you can do to help yourself, like optimizing your sleep environment and ensuring your bedroom is dark and cool, and maybe even wearing a sleep mask or earplugs if you're really sensitive to light and sound, reducing caffeine, right, in the afternoon, creating a relaxing bedtime routine. All of those things are very helpful, don't get me wrong, but if you only focus on these tips without really building a healthy foundation and a healthy relationship with your sleep, you will still struggle. And when you can't stick to all of these rules every single day, or they don't work, you feel like you failed and you're ready to give up, and then you just fall back into a routine that keeps you feeling exhausted. Focus on the basics and do them really, really well. That's it. No crazy hacks or things you have to buy or generic advice that you've already heard before. Let me know in the comments what you're struggling with the most at the moment when it comes to a busy schedule and trying to keep a healthy sleep routine, and I will make sure to include that in one of my next videos. And if you're still a bit confused and you don't really know where to start to fix your sleep problems, just check out my free sleep health assessment toolkit in the description below. And see you next time. Thank you so much, and sleep well.